A common medical condition that is becoming more alarming among adults and children inclusive that involves an abnormal or excessive fat accumulation, and it presents a negative effect on your health, is obesity. This is our focus for today. You're welcome to the program Your Health, showing on NTA Channel 5 Abuja, the Unity Station. It is a program packed with information on health issues and healthy living. I am Salamat Ozioma Lukman. Let's take this report on obesity. I'll be right back.
Obesity is a disorder involving excessive body fat that increases the risk of health problems. Obesity often results from taking in more calories than are burned by exercise and normal daily activities. When we think of an obese person, we often think of an extremely large, saggy body and a round, chubby face. Images of someone sitting on a sofa, being inactive, eating fast food, or drinking may come to mind. It might be assured that the person is either lazy or greedy. When we also Google obesity, these are often the images that will pop up. Above one's normal weight, a person has traditionally been considered to be obese if they are more than 20% over their ideal weight. That ideal weight must take into account the person's height, age, and build. A body mass index is a key index for relating body weight to height. It is a person's weight in kilograms divided by their height in meters squared. Since the BMI describes the body weight relative to height, it correlates strongly with the total body fat content in adults. With the total body fat content, some very muscular people may have a high body mass index without health risks. What we often don't see are internal health issues that accompany that excess body fat, which are diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, low self-esteem, anxiety, and depression. And what we certainly don't see or know is the cause of someone's obesity. Obesity is a condition that you wear on your sleeve. It is with you all the time. Obese people are blamed for their weight. What the society needs to know is that people with obesity are human beings. Human beings are made in all colors, shape, and size.
Interesting one there. It is now time for our interview segment with our doctor on obesity. Do take a watch and I'll be right back.
Obesity, it's a common clinical condition. It's a common medical condition which we find, in recent times, and the reasons are not far-fetched. Because of lifestyle modifications, we appear to have moved from green to more of refined food. So it's a clinical condition that is characterized by an individual having a body mass index that is above 30 kilograms per meter squared. In assessing obesity, we use weight and the height of that individual. So what we do is we put the weight over the height, multiplied by 2 in meters. So when you have values that are above 30 kilograms per meter squared, you say that individual is obese. We also have other values. The obesity has types. We have the grade 1 obesity, we have the grade 2 obesity, we have morbid obesity, and we have super obesity. So from 30 to 34.9 is grade 1. From 35 to 39.9 kilogram per meter squared is grade 2. From 40 to 49.9 kilograms per meter squared is morbid obesity. And then 50 and above is super obesity. There's one other nomenclature that is also key, what we call overweight. From 25 to 29.9 kilograms per meter squared is overweight. Normal BMI for an individual should be between 18.5 to 24.9 kilogram per meter squared. So if you have your body mass index, remember I said weight over height times 2. If you have it between 18.5 to 24.9, then you're not obese. If you have it between 25 to 29.9, then you're overweight. If you have it 30 and above, then you're obese. So those are the drawing line of being obese. And I said we have grade 1, grade 2, morbidly obese, and then super obesity. Okay, so the causes of obesity, I want to classify them mainly as risk factors, and under the risk factors, you have those as a result of increased calorie intake. Increased calorie intake means you're consuming more than you're expending. And then the other group, I'll put them as reduced expenditure. And then I also bring in a later group which we call the genetic or hereditary obesity. So for the first group, as a result of increased calorie, where you have an individual consuming more than he's expending, and this can come from increased intake, from taking of high diets that are rich in carbohydrate, diets that are rich in protein, diets that are rich in fat, and then the second group, which I said, reduction in expenditure, which you find commonly in people that exhibit sedentary lifestyle, people who are always seated, people who do not exercise, people who are always sitting, So when you don't expend as much calorie as you're taking, there's a tendency that you're going to gain weight. Weight is actually a balance, an overbalance of so much calorie and less of expenditure. So when you have excessive calorie, the calories in the form of glucose are converted to glycogen and lipids, and then are stored, as fats, and that is what accounts for the weight gain most people do. So if you're expending glucose in the forms of activities, exercises, mental activity, you won't have a lot of stores that are going to be converted from that glucose to glycogen or to lipids, and so the tendencies of adding weight will be reduced. Then we also have the other group, which we call the genetic ones, which you've had parents, first degree relatives who had, who were obese. There's also a likelihood that you may come down with obesity. We also have those ones that have primary causes. People who have Cushing's syndrome, who has Cushing's disease, there's a lot of cortisol, a lot of steroid, systemic circulation of steroid in the system. And what those hormones do is that they help to preserve glucose. And the body naturally, in the event where you have excess of glucose, the body will naturally just convert those glucose to glycogen and lipids and stores them. So people who have suffered Cushing's syndrome, Cushing's disease, hypothyroidism, where the amount of thyroid hormones that are necessary for metabolisms of fat, of calories are reduced, the natural tendency is that the body will convert glucose to glycogen and to lipids, and that is what would end up, with weight gain. So those are the common forms and common causes of obesity. The signs and symptoms. Signs are the things we elicit. Symptoms are the things the patient tells you. I'll start with the symptoms. Usually the patient will tell you that it appears I'm adding so much weight, or the patient might tell you, the individual might tell you that the father or mother or relations has noticed that she's putting on so much weight. Other things they might notice is that it appears their clothing cannot fit them anymore. They need to either buy new clothes or have to enlarge, losing the clothes that they are already using. Those are the uncomplicated cases, just straightforward obesity. In some cases, they usually would come with complaints of complications arising from obesity, such as problems with sleeping, obstructive sleep apnea. They might have problems, with their respiration. They might have problems with their heart, cardiovascular system, such as hypertension, ischemic heart disease, cardiomyopathy. They might also come down with complications that are related to the musculoskeletal system, such as arthritis, So those are the kind of the symptoms that these patients might present. For the signs, for us as physicians, usually the signs you'll find is an overweight person before you. He might have telltale signs of the predisposing condition. Remember I mentioned earlier on that there are certain disease conditions that are related with obesity. I mentioned Cushing's disease. They might have moon fishy. They might have buffalo hump with short neck. So usually they appear bigger for their weight, for their height and for their weight. And so the other things you want to do is you want to calculate their BMI. Remember I mentioned we use body mass index in categorizing if an individual is normal weight or overweight or obese. So we want to calculate by calculating their weight, calculating their height, and then values are usually going to be above 30 kilogram per meter squared for those individuals that have obesity. The other things you want to look out for, they might have stray, they might have short neck, they might have small mouth. These are other things you might find. And then you also want to assess their vital signs. As I said earlier on, that obesity has been shown to be associated with certain conditions, other conditions, complications. Their blood pressure might be elevated, they might be in respiratory distress because of obstructive sleep apnea and obesity-associated hyperventilation syndrome. So these are the other signs that you can pick in this patient. They might also be diabetic. Forgot to mention that also. They might be diabetic. So you do a random blood sugar, you'll notice that their random blood sugar and fasting blood sugar might be elevated. Their glycated hemoglobin might also be elevated. So these are some of the signs you might find in individuals that are obese. Well, the effects of obesity, I would categorize them into systems. Let me start with the respiratory system. Usually they might have problem with breathing, and usually they will complain that at night they have problems with, with breathing, that they may have at some point they lose the normal physiologic mechanisms of respiration. And they might also complain that at daytime they feel so sleepy, And beyond that also, if these individuals are to undergo surgery, you might have problems with even intubating them, have problems with respiration. So these are some of the things that can affect their respiratory system. And why do they have these problems with respiration? Is that one, they have short neck, and then because of excessive accumulation of fat in the chest wall, the normal chest recall during inspiration and respiration and expiration is lost because of excessive fat, in the chest wall. So that also contributes to the problems of respiration that they have. The next thing is the cardiovascular system. They might have problems with hypertension, they might have ischemic heart disease, they might have cardiomyopathy. The another system again that obesity affects is the gastrointestinal system, the GIT. Problems of reflux disease, they eat, and over time you notice that they start having dyspeptic symptoms, chest burnness because of reflux of food into the esophagus. It's part of the problem that they might have. They might have fatty liver. The liver becomes fatty and enlarged, and then they might also have reduction in the way food, is transited from the mouth to the anus, reduction in gastric transit time. Another key thing which is important to mention is the musculoskeletal system. Obesity might predispose these individuals to having early onset arthritis because the joints are carrying a bigger individual. So wears and tears get very fast, and so they might develop osteoarthritis, early in life. The other system which is also key is the endocrinology system. They might have diabetes, they might have metabolic syndrome, and these are some of the things that obesity can cause. Well, the cure starts with lifestyle modification. And what we term as lifestyle and dietary modification is you want to remember I said earlier on that it can either be due to excessive calorie intake or might be due to reduction in the calories. So for the ones that can be treated, you want to first of all want to ensure that you have a balance of your calories intake and you have a balance of calories expenditure. You want to cut down on carbohydrate as much as possible. There's this local saying we say in medicine that you eat like a king, you have your breakfast as a king or as a queen. You have your lunch as a prince or a princess, and then you have your dinner as a beggar. So if you're able to abide with this principle, your best meal should be in the morning. And the reasons being that for whatever meal you're taking in the morning, we expect that you're going to be walking down throughout that day. So you'll be able to expend that calories. There won't be any reason why those calories will be converted to fat. So you have your best meal in the morning, a good sizable portion of carbohydrate, accounting for about 50%, then 25% protein, and then 25% of vegetable. If you're able to have that in the morning, it will help you to reduce the amount of calories you're taking, in that day. And then you have your lunch. Your lunch should also be, in that same proportion, but this time as a prince in smaller quantities. And then at night, you take smaller amounts. You eat like a beggar. Because the assumption is that at night, you're going to be sleeping. So whatever you have consumed, you're likely going to convert them to fat, and they are going to be stored, and they'll likely lead to obesity. So your diet is key. You want to adjust your diet to at least what is just enough for a day. Normal energy expenditure for an individual is between 25 to 35 kilocalories per day. So you want to look at that. The amount of calories you're taking in a day should not be above 25 to 35 kilocalories per kg per day. For most of the refined food we eat, if you look at the containers, you'll find the amount of energy they deliver. So you don't want to take beyond, that amount that I had mentioned, 25 to 35 kilocalories per kg per day. Other things you want to do is you want to ensure you avoid sedentary lifestyles. You want to exercise as frequent as possible. This will also help to reduce, obesity. But in the event that these conservative measures of treating obesity does not work, there's also the role of surgery. There's certain kind of surgeries we do that can also help to reduce obesity. They could be either restrictive or malabsorptive. We just reduce the amount of your stomach, the size of your stomach, so that the amount of food you're eating is reduced. Or we can divert cause malabsorption of nutrients, and this will also help in reducing the risk of coming down with obesity. So these are some of the options that we have: conservative and the operative ones. And the operative ones are done by the surgeons. Well, advice to the public is that obesity comes with a lot of complications, which we had highlighted earlier on. Mentioned the cardiovascular, the respiratory complications, and these complications are marked with high morbidity and mortality. What I mean by morbidity is that you live a dysfunctional life, and mortality means that you can die from them. It's advised that we regulate what we eat so that we do not become obese and so that we don't come down with the complications that comes with obesity. It is healthy to stay within the normal BMI of 18.5 to 24.9 kilogram per meter body square so that we can all live a healthy life. Well, for those who are obese, I want to encourage you that not all is lost. There are available treatments, models for treating obesity. You can be treated. Start with the initial thing, which is lifestyle modifications and dietary modifications. One thing I also forgot to add is alcohol and cigarette smoking. Alcohol, you have to stop alcohol. So you want to modify your lifestyle, cut down on calories, exercise more frequently, aerobic exercises, and then if this fails, please come to the hospital. We have surgical options that we can offer you that are safe, and this will help to reduce your weight and also help you to prevent you from coming down with the complications that are associated with obesity. So there are treatments. Don't feel bad. Don't feel stigmatized. Come to us and we will help you.
Use your body mass index to know if you are obese or not. When you are between 18.5 to 24.9 kilogram per square meter, then you know you are okay. But if you are above this figure, then you need to look into your lifestyle. Up next is our quote for the day. Our quotes for the day gone by. Let's take our health tips on obesity.
There are several ways to prevent and control obesity. Here are some tips. Consume less processed and sugary foods. Eat more of vegetables and fruits. Drink a high amount of water. Go for a walk. A good walk for 30 minutes will benefit your heart and mind. Engage in regular exercise. Avoid fatty food. Reduce the intake of carbohydrates. Take in more protein. Take in a high amount of fiber. Lower your intake of salt. Never skip breakfast and focus on reducing daily stress.
Exercise regularly, eat healthy, and avoid alcohol and smoking. It is now time for our interactive segment. You're welcome to our questions and answers segment. You can be part of it by sending in your questions and comments to the number displaying on your screen. Our first question is coming from Michael. He's asking, what are the causes of high blood pressure? Your lifestyle choices can be the cause of high blood pressure. It is important you meet your doctor to determine the major cause of your high blood pressure. Our second question is coming from Musa. He's asking, why is hand washing important? Hands are one of the contributors to cross-contamination and cross-infection in the home and outside the home. That is why you're advised always to wash your hands regularly. Our next question is from Joy. He's asking, I want to get tested for STDs, but I don't want to visit the hospital. How can I get tested? The best place to get tested is in the hospital or lab. When a particular STD is detected, medication will be given immediately. These are all we can take on our questions and answers segment. Let's take a break and I'll be right back. Welcome back. Our focus today has been on obesity. Adjust your calories intake and exercise regularly. Have your breakfast like a king or queen, your lunch as a prince or princess, your dinner as a beggar. Hope you had a great time with us today. Why not join us same time, same station next week? Do have a memorable day ahead.